Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. I'm Maheen, and today we are tackling a critical issue for small businesses, which is cybersecurity. With increasing threats like ransomware and third party risks, staying prepared is essential. And today we'll explore ways to close the cybersecurity gap, leverage Gen AI, and promote collaboration for stronger defenses. Our guest today is Naren Kalyanaraman, Partner, Cybersecurity, Privacy, and Financial Crime National Leader at PwC Canada. Naren brings years of experience in advising global institutions on cybersecurity risks and compliance, and we are very excited to dive into his expertise today. So join us as we welcome Naren to the podcast. Naren, welcome to the show. We're very honored to have you share your insights with us today.
Wonderful, Maheen. Thank you for having me on today.
Very pleased. Thank you for joining us. Now, Naren, cyber threats, they're evolving fast, and as I mentioned in my intro, we'd love to close the preparedness gap for our small businesses because they have limited resources and they face even bigger challenges. And closing the preparedness gap is key to staying protected. So, what are the top cyber threats that a small business face today, and how can they be best prepared for them?
We run a global survey called the Global Digital Trust Insights, and we survey businesses from around the world, a large chunk of them being small businesses as well. And there are two or three threats that are showing up quite prominently in what we are seeing. The first one is any cloud-related threats. Most small businesses have really adopted usage of cloud environments to accelerate their digital presence. And so cloud based assets are being quite actively targeted. The second one, I would say, is third party breaches. And what we mean by that is third parties or suppliers to these small businesses who may be seen as a weaker link. And then the third one, and one that's gotten a lot of attention, is ransomware, where a threat actor basically, drops in some malware, some viruses into systems, either locks them up or takes away data, and effectively extorts you for a ransom before they release it. So we're seeing all three of these, really threatening our small businesses today.
Those are some very important points, Naren. I appreciate you highlighting those. It's clear that small businesses they need to be proactive in addressing these risks. Now, what actionable tips can small businesses implement to improve cloud security, manage vendors, and prevent ransomware attacks?
So small businesses have, in some sense, they have an advantage over the more traditional enterprises, large businesses, because they don't have as much technology debt, right? They
Mhm.
don't have so many legacy systems that date decades that are incredibly hard to secure and manage, in a secure fashion. I think for small businesses, it's really about three things for me. One is understanding the attack surface. And, might sound really technical, but the more points of presence that you have on the internet, kind of the greater your attack surface. So whether that's online applications, whether that's storefront systems, whether that's operational technology, whether that's cell phones, and so on. It's really understanding the entire extent of your attack surface for me is very important because you can't protect what you don't know about.
Mhm.
The second thing is if I go to third party breaches, it's really about understanding the third parties you engage and their security posture, right? At least for your most critical vendors, understanding if the third parties who help you transact with operate in a secure manner. And then the third thing for me is having the viewpoint of it's not going to be always prevention of cyber threats. You might get it right 99% of the time, but cyber threat actors will inevitably kind of get in. So moving from this notion of prevention, just prevention, to resilience, right? If somebody were to get in, how do you isolate? How do you detect? How do you shut it down quickly? This notion of resilience is becoming very important for small businesses.
Well, thank you for sharing those insights, Naren. It's clear that preparedness is crucial in today's cybersecurity landscape. And listeners, protecting your business from cyber threats isn't just a strategy, it's quite essential. And understanding these risks will help you take the right steps to safeguard your data, your employees, and customers. Naren, up next, let's explore how small businesses can leverage Gen AI for enhanced security because artificial intelligence is transforming industries and cybersecurity is no exception. For small businesses, Gen AI it's really opening up new possibilities for threat detection and response. So, yes, please share with us how can small businesses benefit from using Gen AI in their cybersecurity efforts and what challenges might they face in implementing it?
Absolutely, it's a great point. It's the topic of the year, right? And so, in order to answer that question, I'll actually take a slightly different spin, but I'll come back to your question. We're seeing threat actors using Gen AI more and more. And that is quite concerning because they don't face the same roadblocks that small businesses face in terms of the pace of and velocity of introduction of Gen AI. And
Mhm.
why is that important? We are seeing AI driven defenses as the best way to defend against AI initiated attacks. Using AI, threat actors can craft better phishing messages. They can craft better attacks, identify weaknesses, etc. So uh, it's very important for small businesses to truly embrace the power of Gen AI for cyber defenses. Gen AI can be really used in what we call the Security Operations Center or for event detection. It can parse through large volumes of data. It can connect events that perhaps humans manually haven't historically been able to connect.
Mhm.
So across cyber defenses, we see a lot of applications. Whether that's looking at patterns over email, whether that's looking at cyber events, whether that's looking at compliance objectives. There's applications across the board.
No, you're right. Gen AI is a powerful tool. And as you mentioned, businesses need to approach it with care, especially in regarding data governance and trust. On that note, Naren, what practical strategies can small businesses use to responsibly adopt Gen AI and maximize its potential in their security operations?
So I think the key is there are a lot of AI products and tools and algorithms out there. I think organizations need to take up an upskilling journey. This is going to be so integral to everything we do in the years to come. So, educating yourself, your staff, and to some extent your vendors and even some customers, I think it's going to be very important to understand the power of AI. But it's also important to educate yourself on where AI can go wrong. I use the example of deep fakes. It's very easy using AI to replicate a customer's voice or a customer's video profile and therefore bypass controls that you may have already had in place. So for me, the education piece is the most important thing. The second thing is this notion of acceptable use, having some guardrails in the organization around what you want to use AI for and what you don't want to use AI for. And that post will change every year, but having an understanding and communicating that understanding of what you can use it for. And then the third piece is around just putting good controls around if data leaves the environment, right? You understand what the nature of that data is, and hopefully it's not sensitive data or proprietary data that gives an organization a competitive advantage. So I'd say it's a combination of training, implementing good basic controls, and then having some clear guardrails around acceptable use to me.
Thanks for breaking that down there. And Gen AI really it offers a great chance for small businesses to enhance their cybersecurity. And listeners, GenAI is more than a buzzword. It's a really powerful tool as we discussed for improving security, but responsible adoption is key. So please understand the risks and invest in training to fully leverage in this technology. Naren, next we'll discuss how collaboration and industry partnerships can further strengthen security because in today's connected world, collaboration is crucial for building a strong cybersecurity strategy, and industry partnerships can help businesses share knowledge and strengthen their defenses. Naren, can you please explain how collaboration between industries, industry groups, and the government can help improve cybersecurity for small businesses?
Absolutely. It's one of the areas where I think we've made the most progress in the last
Mhm.
5 years. Today, I see a number of formal communication channels. I'll use ISACs as an example for intelligence sharing, but I'm also finding the peer-to-peer communication has vastly improved in Canada and around the world. The other thing that's really improved is the participation of law enforcement, the likes of RCMP here in Canada, the FBI in the US, etc., in education, but also helping organizations through incidents and events as they occur. So, my biggest recommendation is eh, think of cybersecurity as team defense, right? We are collectively trying to protect Canada. We're trying to protect our customers, our public. And so lean in, explore these sources, and establish those connection points, both formally as well as informally. And there's a lot of information and a lot of intelligence you can gather through that.
That's a great point, Naren. Building a network of support and knowledge sharing is essential, especially for small businesses, because that may not have, they may not have the large IT teams to cover it all. But what are some practical ways that small businesses can engage with cybersecurity communities and access government resources to improve their security?
So a lot of the government resources are actually open source, which means they're kind of published on the internet, but also available for subscription on an as-needed basis. And then there's a lot of communities. I'll use examples. ISACA is one, ISC2 is one. There's a number of ISACs, which is your intelligence sharing communities. So a lot of these are by invitation, but they're quite keen and eager to take on new members and share information. There's also a lot of unofficial gatherings that I'm seeing in Canada and across the world, where it's Chatham House rules. They quite openly discuss cyber threats. They quite openly discuss lessons learned from recent breaches. So there's a lot of resources out there that small businesses can really tap into.
No, you're right. Collaboration clearly has the potential to create a stronger, more resilient cybersecurity ecosystem. And listeners, based on what we discussed, cybersecurity is quite a team effort. And by working with industry partners, sharing knowledge, and using government resources, you can really strengthen your defense and build a more resilient business. Naren, in our next discussion, let's focus on resource allocation and how small businesses can prioritize their investments to get the most out of their cybersecurity budget because allocating resources is tough for small businesses, especially with tight budgets, and prioritizing investments can provide the best protection key. Naren, how can small businesses effectively allocate their resources and prioritize their investments to ensure that they're getting the best protection for their budget?
It's a great question, and one of the things that we continue to observe is that organizations, including small businesses, haven't really maximized on their current cybersecurity investments. So we often find that, when they buy tools or technology, they use it for, 30% or 40% of what it is kind of truly capable of. So I think the first tip that I have or I can give is, understand what you've already invested in and what more it can do versus going out and buying, more and more tooling. The second thing is, the industry is moving from this idea of um, best of breed to the most integrated product suite. And because there's a lot of dollars and time spent in getting these tools to integrate and talk to each other, and feed each other, versus there's the emergence of a lot of platforms where, they come with many of these capabilities all pre-integrated. So I think for small businesses, taking a platform centric approach is going to be critical.
It's helpful to hear how small businesses can make strategic choices when it comes to cybersecurity spending, ensuring that they get the most value from the investment. But what are the key areas where small businesses should focus their security budgets for the best return on investment?
I think there's two or three that come to mind to me. The first one is establishing what we call a security operations center. Now, it may sound like a very expensive, large endeavor, but essentially at the heart of it, you want somebody monitoring your systems and your environment on a 24/7 basis.
Hmm.
I equate this to the home alarms you've got set up when you leave home, and if there's a window open when you're not there, you immediately get a call, right? So having 24/7 monitoring, I think, is the um, first and most important thing. The second thing I would say is really focusing on identities and identity management, which is your user IDs and passwords and credentials, and making sure that those are secure, those are rotated, those are of adequate complexity. You have additional factors of authentication, for example, multi-factor authentication, and so on. And these are, while it may sound intimidating, these are actually, with the tools and technology out there today, these are fairly easy to implement and can be done in pretty short order. And the third thing I would say is backups. I go back to my point on resilience. People will get in. Your systems may be impacted by ransomware. So having robust backups and testing your ability to recover from those backups, minimizing business interruption, will be another area that small businesses should be looking at.
Thank you, Naren. Resource allocation is a critical part of cybersecurity strategies, especially for small businesses. But let's discuss this by looking at what the future holds for cybersecurity and what trends businesses should be preparing for, because cybersecurity landscape is constantly evolving and staying ahead of the emerging threats is essential for small businesses. And what are the key cybersecurity trends that you see emerging in the near future, and how can small businesses stay ahead of these trends?
So I think, I mean, we touched upon a couple of them, but we are continuing to see threat actors, unfortunately, get more and more sophisticated, right? Get better at doing what they do. We are seeing them use AI.
Mhm.
We're seeing that for small businesses, it's really crime rings, criminal groups, etc., who primarily target small businesses with the idea of extorting money. So to me, if I take all of that, I think building on this notion of resilience, breaches will happen, unfortunately, and being prepared, being resilient, being able to recover quickly, I think is going to be important. So that requires a bit of a mindset shift, from just preventing cyber attacks. And then the other thing that we spoke about was partnerships. So just staying abreast of these threats on a continuous basis, and practicing, right? So what we recommend to small businesses is, run a simulation, whether that's a tabletop or an actual simulation on your systems. See how you're able to react, respond, recover, and learn from that and make continuous iterative improvements.
No, it's interesting to hear how the landscape is evolving and Staying proactive in cybersecurity clearly isn't just about responding to current threats, but also um, anticipating, what's coming next. And with that, we are coming to the end of our discussion today, and Erin, let's wrap up with a look at your final advice for our listeners today. Erin, as we wrap up, what key trends do you see shaping the future of cybersecurity, and what is that one final piece of advice that you would like to give to small businesses to stay ahead of these trends?
The biggest thing for me is, we spoke about AI, we spoke about sophisticated actors, etc. Unfortunately, humans continue to be the weakest link, right? The easiest thing for a threat actor to do is come up with a reason to get legitimate credentials from you and use that to then access systems, etc. So humans continue to be the weakest link. So
Mhm.
for me, the biggest thing is just education, and that's not just educating employees. It's educating yourself, it's educating employees, but it's educating vendors, it's educating customers, etc. We're seeing a lot of customer education being put out. Um, it could be as simple as, if we need something from you, we're not going to send you an email. We are
Right.
going to be calling you, and we will authenticate before we share any information. Right. So educating customers, to me, and educating the entire ecosystem is the best thing we can do to bolster our overall cyber defenses.
Thank you so much, Naren, for sharing your time and insights with us. It's been an absolute pleasure discussing these important topics with you. Again, thanks for your time.
My pleasure. And together, I'm hoping for a secure, cyber secure future for Canada.
Amazing. And listeners, that was the end of our discussion. In today's episode, we had the pleasure of speaking with Naren Kalyanaraman, partner cybersecurity, privacy, and financial crime national leader at PwC Canada, about cybersecurity strategies for small businesses. We covered critical topics such as closing the cybersecurity preparedness gap, leveraging Gen AI, and the importance of collaboration in building stronger defenses. A special thanks also gets extended to our partners, RBC, UPS, Constant Contact, IHG, and Google for their support in bringing this podcast to you. Please be sure to visit our website, CanadianSME.ca, to subscribe to the magazine for more expert insights and resources. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.